As a result, the Producer Price Review Committee on Cocoa adjusted the producer price to 58,000 Ghana cedis per ton to reflect an exchange rate of 11.5 cedi to $1. The decision by the PPLC to increase the producer price of cocoa made Ghana's farm gate price competitive and stemmed the potential smuggling of our cocoa beans. From October 2025, unfortunately, the world market price of cocoa started dropping. While the price was declining, COCOBOD continued to sell the beans until the price fell below $6,400 per metric ton, which is the cost of cocoa from the farm gate to the port. The causes of the situation and the way forward will be my next thing to address. The current situation is largely driven by the unwillingness of buyers to purchase Ghana's cocoa because it has become uncompetitive and very expensive. Cocoa from other producing countries is now selling at a price significantly lower than that of Ghana's producer price. Meanwhile, COCOBOD did not have the liquidity to purchase cocoa from farmers and stock for hedging or other trading decisions. This was due to the financing model invented in the year 2024-2025, when the syndicated loan failed. Under that model, the buyers financed the purchase. By 2022, COCOBOD finances had deteriorated badly. It defaulted and restructured the cocoa bills in the year 2023. For the first time in the history of the cocoa industry, in 2023, the annual syndicated suffered significant delays due to the loss of confidence in the Ghanaian economy and the sector. The first tranche was received on 22nd December 2023, 4 months after the commencement of the season. COCOBOD projected an output of 800,000 tons and committed 786,672 tons in contracts in 2023 and 2024 crop season. However, actual production was 432,145 tons, a deviation of over 45% from the projected output. Variation in crop forecasts typically vary between 5 to 15%. Hence, a deviation of 45% was unprecedented and unacceptable. This resulted in a huge rollover contract of about 333,767 tons at an average price of $2,661 per ton. This resulted in a loss of over $1 billion United States dollars, which would have gone to the cocoa farmer or other stakeholders. In 2024, COCOBOD could not pay the final tranche of the syndicated loan, which was due in July 2024, and received a 70 million United States dollar bridge finance from the Ministry of Finance to avert a default. Despite a commitment to repay the 70 million bridge finance owed to the Ministry of Finance, COCOBOD defaulted, highlighting the dire financial strait of the organization at the time. This debt has since been inherited by the current administration and the current management of the Ghana Cocoa Board. Now I will take you to the proposed reforms. A careful, and I won't say proposed reforms, these are reforms that I'm going to implement immediately. A careful review of the cocoa sector over the last 8 years revealed gross mismanagement, which requires immediate and comprehensive reforms to address the challenges in the sector. Cabinet has therefore decided on the following reforms to guarantee a fair price to the cocoa farmer, secure the financial viability of the cocoa sector, and ensure the long-term sustainability of the cocoa industry. To bring relief to unpaid cocoa farmers, Cabinet has accordingly directed the Ghana Cocoa Board to commence immediate repayment of all affected cocoa farmers. 2, a new COCOBOD Bill will be presented to Parliament to implement an automatic adjustment of producer price to align with movement in the world market price, exchange rate, and other key variables, and guarantees a minimum of 70% of gross FOB price to be paid to the cocoa farmer. A new financing model for cocoa purchases and related operations with associated benefit for increased processing will be introduced effective 2026-2027 crop season. The current financing model was invented as a necessity after the syndicated loan failed after 32 years of successful implementation, and it was proven not to be sustainable. In fact, it has proven not to be sustainable. The financing model is entirely dependent on the buyer's willingness to bear the financing costs and to pre-finance the purchase of cocoa. The key motivation for buyers in the previous season was the rollover contract priced at a rate of $2,661 per metric ton, when the existing market price were above $8,000 per metric ton. Once the gap between the rollover contract and the market price closes, and the majority of the rollover contracts are serviced, the buyer will not be willing to pre-finance the purchase of cocoa crop. Alternatively, the previous syndicated loan model requires that COCOBOD sells forward most of the raw beans to lock in the contract, which repays the loan and serves as collateral as well. This system did not allow COCOBOD to optimize prices on the market. In addition, the use of raw beans contract as collateral for the loan meant that Ghana could not optimize its installed capacity for processing. The new financing model will utilize domestic cocoa beans to purchase cocoa. The new financing model will utilize domestic cocoa bonds to purchase cocoa and repay the cocoa proceeds within each crop year. The bonds will be used to raise a revolving fund for COCOBOD to turn around at least once during the season. The model will also revive the indigenous license buying companies that have been completely thrown out of business as a result of the current financing model. State-owned produce buying company, PBC, will be revived to resume full operations and become the leading license buying company in the cocoa sector with immediate effect. With the new financing model, COCOBOD can sell beans of any volume to local processing companies to promote value addition and job creation. Cabinet has, however, directed that with immediate effect, the remainder of the beans for the crop year 2025-2026 should be allocated for domestic processing. Cabinet has also directed that beginning from 2026 to 2027 crop season, a minimum of 50% of all cocoa beans should be processed locally. And this will be part of the COCOBOD Bill going to Parliament. Pursuant to this, the state-owned cocoa processing company, CPC, will be revived as a matter of priority to become the leading processor of Ghana's cocoa beans. I've also, this morning, together with my colleague, the Minister responsible for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, met with domestic cocoa processors cutting across the private sector, who have indicated that they have the capacity and the willingness to process more than 50% of Ghana's cocoa beans going forward. An agreement has been reached on the immediate implementation of this policy. In order to address the indebtedness inherited by the current management of Ghana COCOBOD, Cabinet has further directed that the Minister responsible for Finance, myself, to urgently seek parliamentary approval for the following. 1, to convert the legacy debt of about 5.8 billion Ghana cedis owed to the Ministry of Finance and Bank of Ghana. COCOBOD currently owes the Ministry of Finance 3.7 billion Ghana cedis, which arose from the conversion of non-marketable cocoa bills into a loan, and the Bank of Ghana another 10-year loan of 1.38 billion Ghana cedis. The debt conversion will restore positive equity and boost the international and local market to support the operations of the Ghana COCOBOD. This will strengthen the balance sheet, obviously, of Ghana Cocoa Board to enable it implement its new financing model and the reforms. Cabinet has also directed that, with immediate effect, there should be a transfer of road liabilities worth 4.35 billion Ghana cedis to the Ministry of Roads and Highways and the Ministry of Finance. From 2014 to 2024, Cocoa Board owed cocoa contractors. From 2014 to 2024, Cocoa Board awarded cocoa contracts of up to 26.5 billion Ghana cedis, with 21.5 billion Ghana cedis of contracts awarded between 2018 and 2021. Despite an agreement under the IMF program in 2023 to rationalize Cocoa Board's commitment of 21.7 billion Ghana cedis to 6.9 billion, the previous board and management of Cocoa Board failed to conduct this exercise. The exercise has subsequently been completed under the supervision of the Ministry of Finance and the minister responsible for roads. The Minister of Roads and Cocoa Board jointly conducted this rationalization exercise to reduce the exposure on cocoa roads. Upon the completion of the exercise, the total exposure of 21.7 billion Ghana cedis has since been reduced to 4.35 billion Ghana cedis. Cabinet has directed that the liabilities of the 4.35 billion be transferred to the Ministry of Roads and Ministry of Finance for payment. Cabinet noted that road construction accounts to a significant part of the financial difficulties of Cocoa Board. And this is important, let me stress. Cabinet also noted that road construction accounts for a significant part of the financial difficulties that Cocoa Board is facing at the moment. Pursuant to the earlier announcement that I made in the course of last year, the new Cocoa Bill that is going to Parliament will now prohibit Cocoa Board from such quasi-fiscal expenditures and other non-core expenditures going forward, and it will come with punishment if they ever do so. An announcement as you recall, that I made an announcement in the 2026 budget that government of Ghana has secured a $500 million World Bank facility to construct agricultural roads, including cocoa roads. This particular intervention would take over the construction of cocoa roads going forward. To ensure accountability and transparency in the management of Cocoa Board and the cocoa sector as a whole, Cabinet also directed the Attorney General to commission concurrent forensic audit and criminal investigation into the activities of Cocoa Board over the last 8 years. And I repeat, Cabinet also directed the Office of the Attorney General to commission concurrent forensic audit and criminal investigation into the activities of Cocoa Board over the last 8 years. Cabinet has directed the Ministry of Finance to initiate also immediate reforms at Cocoa Board to streamline their operations and cut costs. Wasteful and uncontrolled expenditure practices are to be curtailed immediately. The world market price has dropped significantly from the average of 7,200 tons to 4,100 per ton, making Ghana's cocoa beans uncompetitive and creating liquidity challenges. To address this, the Producer Price Review Committee, PPRC, met this afternoon under my chairmanship to assess the challenges facing the sector and review the producer price for the remainder of the 2025-2026 crop year. In order to cushion the farmer, the PPRC has recommended that the farmer be paid 90% of the achieved gross FOB of $4,200 per ton to mitigate the adverse impact on the farmer as a result of the fall in the world market price. As a result of that, the PPRC thereby announces that effective today, Thursday, 12 February 2026, the new producer price for the remainder of the 2025-2026 crop season will now be 41,392 Ghana cedis per ton and 2,587 Ghana cedis per bag. This measure has become necessary to reflect the reality of the world market price of cocoa, ensure the injection of immediate liquidity for expedited payment of farmers, and guarantee the sustainability of our cocoa sector. In conclusion, government wishes to convey its sincere appreciation to the Ghanaian cocoa farmer and all stakeholders for their forbearance and sacrifice over the years. Cocoa has always been the mainstay of our economy, and wish to assure them that these reforms will protect the interests of the cocoa farmer and the cocoa sector. In fact, we strongly believe this will transform the industry. Thank you very much for your attention.
All right, at this stage, we would invite questions from members of the media present. Now, in order to maximize time and allow for as many questions as possible, we will limit each questioner to one question. So if you have a question, please walk up to my right here. There's a microphone. Identify yourself, ask your question, and then the minister would answer them. So we'll take 5 questions at a time. And I would urge that we limit the resort to lengthy preambles before the question. So any questioner can walk up here.
Good afternoon. Yeah. Hello, good afternoon, Minister. My name is Francis Into. I work with the Ghana News Agency. You've indicated that COCOBOD has been directed to immediately pay all cocoa farmers. Has money been made available for COCOBOD to take on this exercise? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other question, please? Please walk up.
Yes. My name is Caleb Zeblem from Joint News Research.
Please speak up.
My name is Caleb Zeblem from Joint News Research. So just a follow-up to the financing. Again, the source of financing for the remainder of the season, that's about 50,000 metric tons and 70,000 metric tons in production. Is it coming from the government side or from COCOBOD side? And again, or is it... So the funding for the remainder of the beans for the season, that's about 50,000 metric tons, and that for the last season, I think about 70,000. Where is the source of funding coming from? Is it from COCOBOD's books or from the central bank's books?
All right, thank you very much. So we have room for 3 more questions in this round. Let's answer these questions. Okay. So if there are no further questions, the minister. Okay, I see a hand up, so please walk up.
Minister, thank you very much. My name is Prince Essien with GH1 TV and Star FM. A farmer wants to know that, in essence, the price per bag has reduced from 3,600 to 2,500. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that question. If there's no other, I would invite the finance minister to answer these 3 questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, COCOBOD is in a position to resume the purchases of cocoa, so there's no cause for alarm. Second question has to do with where is the money coming from? The central bank does not buy cocoa. It's COCOBOD that buys cocoa. The 70,000 additional cocoa beans that will be mopping up will be sold to domestic processors, and they will pay for it. And when they pay for it, COCOBOD will have obviously the money to be able to process the cocoa. But let me say that yes, today if you go to Abidjan, it is obvious that their price is far lower than that of Ghana. And that is why now we are not even seeing our cocoa going to Abidjan. The farmer has no incentive to smuggle the cocoa to Abidjan. In fact, if care is not taken, we'll see reverse smuggling rather coming into our economy. And this morning, for example, it was quite intriguing from particular data that came to my attention. The previous crop year, Volta and OT sold to Ghana Cocoa Board 97 tons of cocoa. The same period this year, this crop season, they've sold 2,500 metric tons of cocoa, all because the price today here in Ghana is far expensive than that of the Togo Republic. And so there's no incentive. The question is it that cocoa is coming from Togo to Ghana, or is it that as we speak, because our farmers do not have incentive to smuggle it, it's now staying for COCOBOD to be able to mop up? But let me say that the reality is the reality. The reality today is that our beans are very expensive, and buyers are not buying it. And obviously because there is no point when the world market price is an average of $4,200 per metric ton to buy your cocoa at $7,200 per metric ton. Certainly there's no incentive, and this is something that we have to live with. And so, yes, the reality is that after careful revision of the situation, the Producer Price Review Committee came to that conclusion that something needs to be done. But being mindful of the impact on the farmer, as the chair of the Producer Price Review Committee and a strong advocate for cocoa farmer, we push so that the cocoa farmer gets 90% of the producer price for $4,200 at the prevailing exchange rate. So that is the reality, and we need to save the industry, we need to make it sustainable. But let me conclude by saying this. Unfortunately, in the past, when prices of world market price of cocoa moved up, unfortunately, the cocoa farmer did not benefit. It is a fact. When the exchange rate depreciated, the cocoa farmer did not benefit. And so it is only fair for the cocoa farmer to raise concerns. It is only fair. But never again should this practice be allowed to persist. Never again. And so to stem that and to allow the cocoa farmer to benefit from future rise in the world market price, we are going to propose in the law that will be sent to Parliament that there should be automatic price adjustment. And automatic price adjustment, the cocoa farmer will receive a minimum of 70%. So it doesn't matter where the world market price is. It will now be a law. And it doesn't matter who is the chief executive of COCOBOD. He or she cannot have the power to cheat the cocoa farmer. And so going forward, the cocoa farmer will be protected, and that is the essence of some of the essence of what we address today. So that will be addressed, and the cocoa farmer will be fine. Thank you very much.
Yes, so any additional questions are welcome at this stage.
Thank you, my dear friend, Honorable Minister. You said you're going to issue bonds to fund cocoa. One, who would issue the bonds, and on whose balance sheet are you issuing those bonds? And two, you also mentioned the fact that, oh gosh, I've lost my train of thought. Now, if you do those bonds, one, how do you do the recouping of that? And also, in terms of exchange rate, you didn't address that. How do you handle the exchange rate situation regarding the new automatic price valuation that you're talking about? Thank you.
All right.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Obodo. I work with TV3. You spoke about revamping CPC. How do you plan to do that? What would it cost? And the 50% of that it will be processing, is it for the local market? How do you make up for the exchange rate difference that you'd have made if you had exported the beans? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is Justice. I work for the ChannelOne News Agency. Minister, you spoke about, taking steps to stop wastage in the system. Now, since December, I've been following an issue about the movement of 18 containers of COCOBOD jute sacks from the Tema port to somewhere around the Central University, which is being investigated now by the Ghana Police Service. And then also COCOBOD's direction for the rest of the jute sacks at the port to be cleared. Agents have been assigned to clear it. But my information is that people, influence peddlers, are still trying to barricade these agents from clearing, the remainder of the sacks. So I would like to know, Minister, if this has come to your attention, what is the stage of investigation and what steps are being taken that the rest of those sacks will be cleared from the Tema port for the COCOBOD to use? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, my name is Emmanuel Bruce from Reuters. On the collapse of the cocoa prices in the international market, I know in 2018, the two largest producers, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, committed to an initiative. Under the initiative, these two countries were supposed to harmonize their policies, start the season at the same time, set the same price, and then control how they release the beans on the market. In recent times, we've seen these two countries do things separately. Could this could this be a cause of the collapse in the price? And has there been any conversation from the Ghanaian authorities with Ivory Coast on how the two countries can come together to resolve this collapse in the prices?
Thank you.
And also just a clarification, these new prices that COCOBOD has announced, we know some of the farmers have already delivered some beans to some purchasing clerks, and the clerks have already paid for them, but then those beans have to. So would this new price affect them, or they will still be paid the old price, because that's the prices that they paid to their farmers?
Thank you very much. So we'll take last two questions and we'll call it a day.
Okay, so a follow-up to my earlier question. Just so for the remainder of the season, the beans that are going to be produced and sold, would they be sold?
You may have to speak up, please. Sorry.
Would the beans be sold directly to cocoa processing companies in Ghana, or they'll be sold to COCOBOD, who will then deliver them to the cocoa processing companies?
Thank you very much. So Moses will have the last word.
I lost my train of thought. The remaining 50%, you didn't say how you're going to distribute. Would it be like a mixture of spot sale and then forward sale? We didn't get that clarity, so that will help us. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So, Honorable Minister, please answer these questions.
Thank you. I have to keep some of my strategies in my sleeves, and so I can't give all of that to you, particularly relating to the hedging strategies COCOBOD will adopt, because they are market sensitive, and any comment on that can change the dynamics of the market. So I'm sorry, I have to disappoint you on that one. Let me first answer the last question, the one before a call came again. COCOBOD is an age-old organization with comprehensive standards, and they know where the cutoff points are, what is sealed, what is graded, what has been taken over, and all. So the fine details will be announced by the Ghana COCOBOD in terms of operationally how to implement these policies that we have announced. So I will stay at the operational side and leave I will stay at the policy side and leave the operational details to the Chief Executive to handle them. 2018, yes, the initiative came and the two countries consulted. The process is still ongoing. We consulted them based on decisions that we would take, and they also consult us based on certain decisions that we have to take. And so the cooperation is still ongoing, and it's not a problem. Jute sacks, I agree with you. COCOBOD mismanagement has been a matter of concern to government. For example, for 5 years in a row, all what the previous administration did was to buy jute sacks The jute sacks arrives at the port. They don't clear them and order a new set. They don't clear them, then order a new set. So it was just more or less a procurement agenda, not buying to bag cocoas. In fact, after keeping so much jute sacks in the at the port and failing to clear them, before they left office, they established a letter of credit for another $48 million worth of jute sacks that came in also uncleared. But it's all part of the cabinet directives to the minister responsible for justice and attorney general to investigate, and I'm sure he will be in a better position to answer as to where this investigation has gotten to. That's not my job, and so let's leave it to the minister responsible for justice, and I'm sure he will address those concerns. CPC will be revamped. This morning, CPC, together with private sector processors, met myself and colleague minister responsible for trade, agribusiness, and industry. Clearly, you could see that outside CPC, the private sector has strong capacity to process our cocoa. CPC also has some strength, but this strength will mean that we have to revamp them. And so we have taken a decision to revamp CPC. The details, we'll leave it to CPC, the management and board to make those announcements. But a comprehensive announcement will be made, and CPC will be empowered to take their rightful place as the leading processor of Ghana's cocoa beans. The issue of the bonds, yes, the bonds will be issued. It will be domestic bonds. It will be called cocoa bonds. It will be meant largely for the purchases of cocoa beans and to finance the crop, and it will be domestic. It will be issued on the balance sheet of the Ghana Cocoa Board. The issues of concern with Ghana Cocoa Board balance sheet will be dealt with, and I've announced a raft of measures that will deal with the balance sheet issues with Ghana Cocoa Board. But beyond that, I believe Cocoa Board will be in a better place to enter the domestic market and revamp the industry. Thank you.
So in the absence of any question, we will draw down the curtains on this press briefing. Thank you all for coming. Right.